But before we dive into the disturbing tales of the night, let me ask you, do you have the courage to stay until the end? Most viewers don't subscribe to the channel, perhaps out of oversight, or perhaps because after hearing these stories, they never slept the same way again. If you think you can handle it, click subscribe now.
It happened for the first time about 7 years ago. I think it was in late 2015. I lived with my wife, Erin, in the house where I grew up, an old wooden place at the end of a little dead-end road in Walden, Maine. Those little wooden houses with sloping roofs, you know, surrounded by forest on 3 sides, and absolute silence in the bedroom. I always liked the isolation. It gave me peace. I'm the kind of guy who feels more comfortable with the sound of the wind than with the sound of voices. But after what happened, the silence became my enemy. It was a Sunday morning, right after a snowstorm. I woke up later than usual and went to get my coffee. When I went outside, I noticed footprints in the snow. A clear, deep trail going straight from the forest to the side of my car. Only that far. They didn't go around the house. They didn't go away. It was as if someone had come out of the forest, gone straight to my car, and returned to the woods the same way, straight. As if they knew exactly where to go. As if they had a purpose. I thought Erin had gone out for some reason, but she said she hadn't even woken up yet. It also didn't make sense. The footprints started from the woods. No footprints going towards the forest, only coming from it. A couple of winters passed. Nothing happened until January 2018. I remember because it was the day after the Super Bowl that the Patriots won against the Rams. I woke up late for work and went straight outside, and that's when I saw it. Footprints everywhere, covering the yard, around the windows, near the back door, around the entire house. But they weren't ordinary footprints. None of them had shoe marks. They were barefoot in the ice, with -12 degrees Celsius, 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Outside, I called Erin. She turned white. We followed the trail as far as we could, but it disappeared right at the edge of the woods. And this time, there were several directions, as if more than one person had come, and then disappeared. I called my friend Derek. He's a war veteran, an experienced hunter, and he's not afraid to go into the woods, even at night. We went to track the footprints the next day. We took flashlights, and he brought that rifle of his with night vision that's worth more than my car. We followed the trails for about 2 hours, deeper and deeper into the forest. And then we saw it. The trails, multiplied, divided, and then died, stopped out of nowhere, as if the people who made them had simply evaporated or gone up. I started to notice a pattern. They led to a certain point, and then they ended, as if whoever made them had hidden, or, worse, was watching us. Night fell, and the forest swallowed what little sanity we had left. The snow muffled the sounds. It was a strange, dense silence. And then Derek grabbed my arm and pointed with his head. He was staring fixedly through the scope. There's something there. I took the scope and looked. There were 4 figures, standing, no, crouched, eating something on the ground. 2 were big, tall. The other 2 were too small. The little ones crawled with slow movements, as if they were children learning to walk. But they weren't children. That wasn't human. Grey skin, shining slightly in the moonlight. Thin bodies, disproportionate heads, eyes too deep, without shine. And they seemed to hear. Even with the snow falling, even with the distance, they knew we were there. We didn't say anything for hours. When they disappeared, We returned in silence. Erin was still awake, and I could only say, "We saw something." We called the police. They came the next day, but of course, they didn't find anything. The footprints were almost covered by the new snow. The stolen tools remained missing. No one else saw anything. The neighbors, they never experienced anything like it. It's just us, just our house, and the woods. I thought about fencing the land, but what's the point? They don't stop with a fence. They walk on the snow barefoot. They watch the house in silence. They come with the cold. They come with the snow. If anyone knows any similar stories in Maine or other cold states, please comment. We're thinking about moving next summer, but until then, every night is a battle to sleep. I don't know what they are, but I know they'll be back. Before I start, I want to make it clear, I'm not the paranoid type. I've never had problems with anxiety or hallucinations. I've always walked alone on the trails of the West without any fear. But what I experienced in the Sierra Nevada last year made me rethink everything. It was August 2023, the height of summer in California. My plan was to do a 10-day trek through the southern section of the Sierra Nevada, camping alone. I'm a 34-year-old graphic designer who works remotely, and the trail was my way of clearing my head after a stressful year. I parked my car near Ridgecrest and took a bus to the trailhead. The idea was simple: walk over 100 kilometers, 62 miles, cutting through the valley and mountains, sleeping in isolated areas, and return to the car at the end of the trip. The first 3 nights were peaceful. Clear sky, stars, the silence of the trees. But on the 4th night, something changed. I woke up in the middle of the night with the feeling that someone was near my tent. That pure and instinctive feeling that you're being watched. I went out, flashlight in one hand, knife in the other. No one. But when I went to check my backpack, my wallet was missing, and my Swiss Army knife. My documents, everything gone. At first, I tried to convince myself that I had forgotten things at some earlier point. But in the following nights, more things began to disappear. My second lighter disappeared. A protein bar that I was sure I left in the side pocket. One of my shoelaces was cut, cleanly, as if with a blade. It didn't make sense. If it were a common thief, why leave my main equipment, my tent, my flashlight, my cell phone, no signal, of course. Why take small, insignificant objects? On the 6th night, I closed the tent from the inside with electrical tape reinforcing the zipper. Even so, I woke up in the middle of the night to footsteps. Yes, footsteps around my tent. Slow, heavy, as if the person were barefoot or shuffling their feet. On the 7th day, I was a wreck, my mind destroyed. The nights turned into torment, and the days wouldn't pass. The forest, once comforting, had taken on an air of hostility. But I decided I would walk straight to my car without stopping, even if I had to go through the night. I walked for hours. When night fell, I turned on the headlamp and continued. Every shadow became a scare, every branch breaking a chill, and then I heard it. Footsteps, again, this time behind me. I turned off the flashlight. I turned carefully, turned it on again, and I saw something hiding behind a tree. I thought about screaming. I thought about running, but my body froze. The figure came out from behind the tree for a second. It was a man, naked from the waist up, thin, the skin, peeling, the face covered in hair, like an uncontrolled beard mixed with moss. He looked at me and smiled, seriously smiled. Even with the gun in my hand, he took a step. I fired into the air as a reflex. The sound echoed through the trees, and the thing disappeared into the woods. I ran, with my backpack swinging, the flashlight shaking, my lungs on fire. I don't even remember how I managed to find my way back. But when I got to the car, it was still there, intact, as if nothing had happened. I called the police using the emergency radio I kept on the dashboard. The sheriff from the nearest town listened to me with a "here comes another one" look. But when I told him about the missing items and the deformed man, he just said, "You're not the first to report strange things in this area, so you already know about this. We know that it's best not to walk alone there after sunset. Since then, I don't go back to the trails. Not alone. I still wake up some nights sweating, with a feeling of that look following me, the smile hunting me in my dreams. If you love trails like I used to, that's fine. But if you're alone, and you start noticing things disappearing from your campsite, go back. Immediately. The thing that walks in the Sierra Nevada doesn't want to steal your cell phone. It wants to see how much you can take. If anyone has experienced anything similar on the trails of California, send me a DM. I need to know if that was real, or if I was just next on the list. This didn't happen to me, but to my dad. He was never much of a storyteller, but this one he told many times. Always the same way. Always with the same expression of someone who saw something that should never have existed. My dad worked in logging. He was a forestry harvester operator. Those huge machines that tear down trees like they were toothpicks. In the 2000s, he and his partner, a guy named Jace, were hired to clear a forested area in the high country of the San Juan Mountains in Colorado. Isolated place. Like, really isolated. 3 weeks of hard work just to clear a road to where the machines could reach. When the company finally got the equipment there, they started operating. And that's when things got weird. At first, it was just noises. My dad and Jace used radios to communicate at the edges of the clearing. But out of nowhere, they started hearing ... other channels. Voices that weren't theirs. Murmurs, static, interspersed with meaningless phrases. They changed frequencies. Nothing helped. The voices kept coming, as if they were following them from channel to channel. One night my dad told me they heard two voices talking casually, something about cutting firewood and fetching water, but the tone was wrong, like it was a performance, a script. A rehearsed dialogue from a movie that was too strange. They knew that no one else was supposed to be there. One day, Jace went off the harvester's route and found a shack covered in moss, well hidden among the trees. He called my dad on the radio, and the two went to check it out. It was an old shack, made of splintered wood, covered in leaves and mud. Inside, only the worst kind of thing you can imagine. Children's socks, a bucket with human hair, a blanket covered in stains and named in the corner, a children's notebook with horrible drawings. Children tied up, others with their eyes torn out. Scenes that no child should be able to imagine. Jace wanted to get out of there immediately, but my dad, stubborn and trying to stay focused on the job, said they should continue, finish the job, pretend they didn't see anything. They agreed not to use the radio anymore, except in emergencies. The next night, Jace woke my dad up at the campsite. He whispered, "There's someone outside." They were silent. Footsteps, slow, from someone heavy. Then, scratching on the trailer door. Then, knocks, loud, rhythmic, as if marking a time, a warning. When my dad finally mustered the courage to peek, he saw the doorknob turning slowly, without ever actually opening. The next morning, There were nail marks in the wood, and one of Jace's boots, which had been left outside, was inside the trailer next to my dad's bed. They spent the next day in silence, and then, in the early hours, the worst happened. Someone came in. They didn't break the door, they opened it, and threw a sack over my dad's face. When he woke up, he was outside, lying in the woods, bleeding, with his shoulder dislocated and his face full of cuts. Jace was on top of him, pushing away what seemed to be a creature, but it was just a man, naked, bearded, with his face covered in scars, sunken eyes, and a knife in his hands. My dad fainted. When he woke up again, he was inside the pickup truck, and Jace was driving as fast as possible, screaming that those two were still in the forest. He had hit one of them with a shovel. The other disappeared into the woods as if he knew every branch in that place. They went to the hospital. They called the police. The officers laughed, literally. Must have been drivers people who get lost and make shelters in the woods. There's a lot of that around here. Only my dad saw that man's eyes, and heard the other voice in the woods, a child's voice imitating an adult, repeating phrases like it's okay, we're going to have dinner soon, but without intonation, without emotion. A short time later, another logger from their team disappeared. They found the body days later, naked, thrown into a hole covered with branches. The face was ... disfigured. To this day, no one has been arrested. Jace quit the job soon after, moved to Utah, cut off contact with everyone. My dad stayed for a while longer, but he still carries the scar on his face, a deep line just below his right eye, and an expression that hardens whenever someone mentions Colorado, before anyone asks. No, there's no public record of the shack, nor of the worker's death. I've looked. It seems like no one wants this story to exist. But if you ever go hiking in the San Juan Mountains and hear a radio whispering, turn back.